Hi, kia ora, and welcome to the Creative Matters podcast, where we have really inspiring conversations with artists living in and from Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Yarkich. Hi, and welcome to another of our guest updates. Today I'm talking with painter printmaker Kylie Rusk to see what she's been up to since I last spoke to her in March 2021. Hi, Kylie.
Yeah, hi, Mandy.
It's really nice to have you back on the podcast. The last time we spoke on the podcast was episode 2, believe it or not, which was recorded right at the beginning of the podcast in March of 2021. So 3 years on, how are things going and what have you been up to?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me back on. Things have been going really, really well. During COVID times, things have been quite well with my art sales. I was putting works into galleries and they're selling reasonably quickly. And then, Turua Gallery took me on to represent me. Yeah, I had my solo show with them and that went really, really well. And that was when things were starting to change with the economic climate and interest rates were going up. And yeah, still had some great sales from that show.
That's great. And that solo show, I guess you would have learned a lot from that. Is there something that you took away?
Yeah, there's always lessons learned from every show. And I think that helps you grow as an artist and you have improvements for the next show. So for that show, I did really large works. I didn't do a variety of sizes. I really like working big. And also I did quite blue paintings and with my warm ochres and my warm dusty pinks. And then I'd have islands, but there's not a lot of green in them. And so when I always have a post-crit sort of catch up with galleries after a show, I think of it as a crit. And Liz was like, well, perhaps, you should add a little bit more greens into your works. It gives them a bit of warmth. And yeah, I think, creating works of different sizes, there's a variety of price ranges. So that opens it up to more people being able to access your art.
Yeah. And in that show, were you including some of your lithographs as well as paintings, or was it
Yes,
just
I had
painting?
both. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And how do you find combining two of your mediums?
Yeah, I like it because the lithographs are a different price point for buyers. I like it because lithography, no one really does it in New Zealand, so it gives me this sort of unique side to my practice, and also for buyers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Even though your paintings and your prints can be recognised as particular places, do you think that there is a thing that possibly people connect more when it feels more realistic, which seems to be the way that your paintings progressed sort of after that?
Yeah, I've definitely got more detailed over the years. It's still my representation of that landscape and how I feel about it and the memory I want to bring through for myself and for potential buyers.
Yeah. And I guess everyone connects to the different styles in their own way anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's my representation of that landscape. And I have got a little bit more detailed over the years, but that's not a bad thing. I just think I'm just growing as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really loving what I'm seeing with your work. I did notice, I think you did a painting, was it One Tree Hill?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, which was quite different because it didn't have sea in it, did it?
No, I got a commission and they wanted me to paint the bush. And I was like, oh gosh, I think I can do this. And I was like, I can do it. I didn't tell the person that was commissioning me that. I wasn't too sure whether I could do it or not. But yeah, I gave it a crack and learned a lot of lessons from that. And then, I applied it to future paintings. And I'm applying that to my show that's coming up, my joint show that's coming up. I've got a few works that will have that bush in the foreground and the islands in the background.
That's beautiful. And it's lovely that a commission has kind of steered you in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, and that's what I love about commissions. They do stretch your artistic capabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and new things come from that.
Yeah, and good on you for saying yes. It could be easy to say, oh, no thanks.
Yeah. I'm so glad I pulled it off.
Yeah, exactly. You so did. It
Mm.
was really beautiful. Do you feel like you could go more that way with your painting? Capturing scenes and environments that are more land-based or even urban-based rather than islands and sea.
Yeah, I like to steer away from urban. I grew up on a farm way up north, and I moved to the city when I was 18, and I just found it really hard living in such a concrete jungle. And then that's how I sort of, at Elan, I started scribbling out the landscape, and I think it was sort of a way of dealing with um, living in a city. And at the time, like I thought I was fine, but subconsciously I wasn't enjoying it, and it really affected me. So with the show that's coming up, I've returned to scribbling on the stone as it feels really good. You know, there's always lessons learned from each show and throughout my art career. And that really worked back then. And I enjoyed doing that. So with this, I've got a few works in the show where I've just sort of kind of let it loose and just scribbled on the stone, and just it just expresses my feelings towards that landscape. I mean, I think I got quite a little bit like quite contrived or like linear or a bit more regimented. And I think that maybe came from my town planning side of things, where it's quite rule based and quite everything lines up. And yeah, so it's been quite nice to sort of let go.
And I can imagine that
Mm.
that making landscapes like that really does take you back to your place that you really felt you belonged.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
which is so lovely. And you did have also a group show at Megan Dickinson Gallery. Was that in 2023?
Yeah, that was at the end of last year. So yeah, that went well. I think the lead up to that was a challenge. Well, actually, I know the lead up to that was a challenge, given that we had just come out of COVID, built a house, then we were only in our home for 6 weeks, and then we had to be out of our home, which was quite stressful. Yeah, I just think living in that sort of fight or flight mode, high cortisol, this like affected my mental health. Um, and my nervous system was not good. And so I decided I moved back into our home, and it took quite a while to settle back into our home. And so I just took a step back and looked after myself and took time out, and I pulled back from like social media and social gatherings. And I decided to take my time to make my artwork.
Obviously, that was a result of the cyclone, which happened in February of 2023, which was a massive event for many people around New Zealand.
Yeah,
And our
including
little
yourself, Mandy.
community of Muriwai Beach was really badly affected, and many families, you know, lost their homes, and it was a very, very difficult time. So, yeah, I can imagine it would have been hard getting out of your house when you just built it, and then all the things around that, looking after your young family. So
Mm.
it's good for you to acknowledge that and how much it had actually affected you, and then did something about it.
Yeah, so yeah, it was good. I just like I put my mental health first, and I was producing works at the time that were quite dark, and I just couldn't get it right, like get my colors right. And I just remember always just I had to paint the sky so many times, and I built up so many layers. I couldn't get it right. And the first painting I did was quite dark. At the time, I thought it was fine, and then I put it in a gallery and it didn't sell. So I brought it back, and I was like, geez, what was I doing there? And so
Yeah.
refreshened it. Yeah, I think, a lot of the works I painted last year were quite dark. So yeah, I took time out over the summer with my family. I didn't do any art, and yeah, just was present with my kiddies.
Yeah,
And,
that's always a
yeah,
good thing.
yeah,
Yeah. And now you have this show that you've mentioned a couple of times already at
yeah.
Turua Gallery, and that's called Element, and that's
Hmm.
with Julie Sheffield and Claudia Olderink from the
Yes.
18th of October for 2 weeks. And Turua Gallery is a wonderful gallery in St Heliers. Um,
Hmm.
what are you thinking about for this show, and how does it connect with the other two artists' work?
Yeah, so for this show, I decided I wanted to create a consolidated and concise body of work that talk to each other. So for the show, it is based around the Waitemata Harbour from Rakino Island through to North Head. So I've got 7 paintings as part of that show and 3 lithographs. And the artists, Julie and Claudia, they both they work in like corrugated metal and charred beehives. So they're both, both using like the land as their element. And yeah, they're using like these materials that are rescued and reused. And I feel like the works all sort of sit in harmony with each other. Yeah, and similar sort of tones and colours.
Yeah, I think it would be a lovely combination. Beautiful. And that's going to be exciting. That's opening on 18th of October from 5 p.m., which is Friday night. Always a good night at Turua for their
Yes.
openings. So
Yeah.
I'll see you there.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. I mean, you have achieved quite a bit, even though you've been through quite a traumatic event in the last 3 years. And, your art practice has continued, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
and it's great that you've really been mindful of what you're going through mentally and sort of adjusting.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm through that and I'm in a lot better space now. So I'm
Yeah,
creating these works that are a lot lighter and it's all flowing. So it's great.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Such good news. And
Mhm.
Kylie, where do you think you're going to go from here? What do you expect to achieve in the next 3 years?
Yeah, so I'm already starting to think about the next works I want to produce. I sort of want to do a little return to some foggy mornings, like pays homage to, where I grew up on the farm. I also would like, now that I've got a little bit more time and my kids are older, I'd like to get involved in the artist community a little bit more and artist events and chats and yeah, that's what I'd like to
Mm,
uh, do in the
yeah,
future
that sounds
after the
great.
show.
Well, we
Yeah.
look forward to the show, and perhaps in another 4 or 5 years, we can have another update chat. Thank you very much for coming back on the podcast, Kylie, and all the best for your show.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And I love what you're doing, Mandy. It's great for the artist community and yeah, keep up the good work. So thank you.